Hello, my name is Neil from Aptly Creative. For a little while now I've been trying to decide what to do with my YouTube channel. So I've been making a lot of video training content, and most of that has just gone to Udemy, my own site, Cartoon Smart, or Stack Skills. So I haven't had a lot of content to put on YouTube simply because there's other places that are being more appropriate. So now I've decided that for small developers like myself who have been struggling to find the right tools in Unity to do the job, I'll make a series that airs twice a week that reviews Unity Asset Store products. So I have another video coming out soon that will explain all that, but I just wanted to give you that heads up before starting on this video. So what we're talking about today is the Neon Challenge. This was posted on the Unity blog on the 1st of December. At the time of recording this, it's the 3rd of December, and I'm hoping to get this episode out to you as soon as possible. So what is the Neon Challenge? Well, running from now through to mid-January, you'll be able to partake in this challenge with a total prize pool of over $30,000 and a grand prize of $20,000. And that's US dollars. So it's a pretty decent prize pool. Now, I was at the Melbourne Unite a couple of months ago, and they showed off this film clip here, which uses really basic assets from the Unity Asset Store to make something look really good, just using post-processing effects and the new camera system. If you haven't used any of these features, I highly recommend coming to this page and having a look at the overviews and getting started here for Cine Machines and the timeline. Okay, so let's have a look at the challenge page. Once again, starts 1st of December, finishes 16th of January. So what do you need to do? Well, according to the challenge brief, your submission will require you to create one futuristic game environment rendered in Unity, which will be represented as a video in your final submission. The video must show your environment scene in real time and must show multiple views and close-ups. As part of your submission, you will also need to submit an article with a call-out sheet and description of your production process. Okay, and here's what Unity really want to see. So they want to see you use assets from the Asset Store. They want you to use Cine Machines. So if you're familiar with other camera tools such as Pegasus, you won't be able to use that here, or you probably won't get scored as well. And the post-processing stack. So if you haven't used the post-processing stack before, you're in for a real treat. A lot of people who use the Unreal Engine often praise it for how much better it looks in Unity. But once you get familiar with the post-processing stack, the difference between the quality of what you're looking at really isn't much difference. Unreal seems to have a lot more added on by default, whereas in Unity you have to bring in the post-processing stack yourself and configure it. And a lot of people aren't that great at that yet, so that's where there's a lot of confusion. So you will need to include a video of your environment uploaded to a video platform, 1080p minimum, YouTube is preferred, 2 images screenshots of work in progress shots, as well as custom assets and Asset Store assets used in the scene, and do a little making of article as well. Okay, so what you have to do is create a futuristic scene. It's not really any more specific than that, they just say futuristic scene. They do offer some concept artwork, which I highly recommend checking out as well. So the judging criteria will be based on composition, creativity and execution. So we want to get a clear visual narrative out of it. This is where you're putting on your filmmaker hat and deciding which camera angles tells the story that you want to tell. Okay, now we have the prize brackets, challenge rules, so make sure you read over all of these. Guide to entry, so this has links to the post-processing stack and any other tools that you need, including a list of the tools that were used in the Neon Challenge, so if you want to grab something from that you can as well. Some of those assets are free. I believe I grabbed the pipes package from there. And you also need the Unity recorder to record your 1080p or higher video. And there's a lot of documentation and support videos down here. I recommend having a look at all of them as a starting point before you actually jump in and start making something. Okay, so I haven't officially decided whether I'm going to enter or not, but I wanted to at least have a go at this challenge just to see what I might be able to make. So when you're looking at the concept art, you're not wanting to copy the detail, but merely get a feel for what the artist wants from the scene, so the color palette, the design of the buildings, what sort of clothes the characters wear. So I recommend having a look through this to get some ideas that will help you in the creative process. So when I had a look through this, I really liked the idea of a walled city here. Also, when I saw this picture and this one as well, I really liked the desert, sort of barren, dystopian future it's portraying, where there's all these settlements that are close down to the water, but they're not having a good time. So those are the ones that really stood out to me, but you can take whatever you want from this, or you can not use it at all, it's entirely up to you. So I wanted to show you a bit of what I've made a start on and talk through the different Unity Store assets that I used. So if I zoom out here, you can see there's this terrain environment. So I've sculpted this using a package called Gaia. All the links to these packages will be in the description, and also I have a lot of video reviews of the different systems as well, so be sure to keep an eye out for those. So what I wanted to go for with this one was I got a city looming in the background, there's a wall, and outside what I really wanted to focus on was the little communities that live down near the water that aren't able to go into the city for whatever reason. So they live out here, they fish and farm and whatever they need to do to survive. So that's sort of what I'm going for at this stage. That might change as I get further along in this production process. Okay, so once again I use Gaia to shape the terrain. Then for shading the terrain, I'm using CTS, which is a complete terrain shader. So it gives you a lot of detail. There wasn't a preset that covered exactly everything I wanted to do, so I had to make my own preset using different types of sand and rock. And as you can see in the preview, that turned out looking okay. You can see a lot of fog and environmental stuff happening here, so I'm using a combination of Enviro and a package called Fog Volume 3. And between those two, we're able to get some really cool effects, which I'll be able to show you more of when we run the scene. Okay, so the city was never going to be something that was detailed or up close. I wanted it to be huge but looming in the background. So I've just used some very basic shapes to create the city. I'll provide a link to the package that I got the city block from in the description. When you have a look at this wall, it looks like a fairly detailed wall. It's actually a suitcase object I found in, I think it was a survival object pack. And the suitcase has just been blown up in size and just rotated accordingly to look like a wall. That's one way you can use existing objects to effectively make something. Now I should mention at this point, this is very much an early works in progress. I've only been working on it for about 3 or 4 hours, so there's quite a lot of work to go into it still, and I'm still deciding whether how deep I want to go into this. It's important to keep in perspective the final product you want to get to, so once I've thrown enough objects onto here that I have an idea of where I want my camera to start, where I want it to move to, what are my shots going to be, then I can focus on adding detail to those areas that will be within the camera and ignoring areas that won't be in the scene. So down here you can see there's a bunch of assets I've been laying out, so mostly rocks, dead trees, other objects, and I found a really nice package of docks and objects like that. So this one out the front here is from a free package. Whereas this more complicated one, I think it was about $8 for the package, so it's a relatively cheap one. I should also mention that the water is Aquas water. I generally prefer to use, I'm going to murder the name of it, but Tumino water. I find that it looks a lot better in some cases. With this though, I felt Aquas would work great with the shaders I plan to use. Okay, so if you have a quick look at the game scene, when I was thinking about what sort of vibe I want to achieve here, I really liked the future retro, almost 80s feel. So I wanted everything to feel really warm and tilted more towards the pinky red sort of colours. I could have done that with lighting and a bunch of tinting, but the best way to do that is actually with the post-processing effects. So I'll talk briefly about that post-processing stack. If I turn them on here, you can see that makes a huge difference to the feel of the level. So what I've done is if I come into my post-processing stack, you can see with my color grading, they all lean more towards the reds or the pinks on the wheel. There's also a lot of other balance changes in the grading. If you haven't used post-processing effects before, it's really worth just coming in and experimenting with all the different options you have. Okay, so I'm just going to run the scene and give you a quick look around. Okay, and here it is so far. So there's obviously quite a lot more objects I want to add to the scene. I'm mainly really just laying things out to get a feel for what the environment's going to look like. I wanted to have like a little trade and market district down here, so there's a whole sort of hive of activity, and then there's like a dead zone, so a gap. Then you got the wall up there, and the city beyond on the wall. And I need to do a lot of work with the clouds, but I like how the clouds are sort of above the wall, but the buildings still tower far over the clouds. Okay, so this is what I have so far. I might do another diary entry once I've done a lot more in say 2 weeks time or something. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're participating in the Neon Challenge as well, good luck, and I hope I've given you some thoughts to take away with you in starting your own project. So make sure you keep an eye out for my new review show. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. I'm planning to put out 2 episodes per week, and they're always going to be paid assets. The first episode will be out this Tuesday LA time. It will describe more about the series, and you'll see the first episode half an hour later. I hope to see you there.